Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this adorable rustic farmhouse bunny. The supplies you're going to need to make one of our bunnies is you are going to need 3 balls of wool of the Andes worsted weight yarn in your chosen color. So there is 110 yards on a ball, or 50 grams. You will have some yarn left over, probably about 38 grams left over. So you will need the 3 balls of yarn. I will show you a little trick. If you have some stash worsted weight yarn and you want to turn it into super bulky, I will give you a little tip on how to do that. But if you're using the same yarn, just work from 3 balls and it's going to make it nice and easy. And I'm going to be using the color Crane Heather for this tutorial. You'll need pipe cleaners for the ears, and go with a color that is similar to the yarn you're using if you can. It doesn't really matter if the color is off, because the ears, you're not really going to see them, but if a little bit pops through, just a light color will look okay. But as you can see, I've covered up most of the ears with crocheting over them. You can use some twine to tie a bow around the neck of your bunny, and it's up to you. You can use a colored twine or you can use a natural, like I've shown on this one here. And you can usually just pick these up at the dollar store as well, or one of your craft stores. I'm using a Pom Pom maker to make the Pom Pom for the back of our bunny. You'll need a 7mm crochet hook size, and this is a furl streamline hook. You'll need a yarn needle for bulky yarn, as well as a stitch marker to mark your rounds. I wanted to give the rabbit some weight to the bottom so that it sits nice, so it's squishy. It has a nice firm bottom, so your bunny is not going to fall over. So you just want to fill this up with some rice, and that will give that weighted feel to the bunny. So you can just pick these up at your craft stores or your dollar store. Also want some fill for your bunny as well. Now what I have used, this is like a batting, and this is out of a really inexpensive pillow that I picked up at a department store. So you can go and just rip open the pillow. You can use this, or you can buy some batting or stuffing. I just like this because it's more solid, and you're not going to find little bits coming through the bunny because it's all sort of stays into one piece. But as you can see, the stitch is pretty tight, so you're not going to see a lot of it through. But I thought this would be a good option for stuffing the bunny, just in case I don't really want little bits coming out. Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this adorable bunny for your home decor. It matches very well with our carrots that I did last year. And if you missed that tutorial, I will link it in the description box below. But it's going to use the same yarn, the same bulky style with that same stitch pattern. And just like the carrots that are made in various colors, you can also make your bunny in different colors to match the theme of your home. So I will be working from 3 balls, but I'm going to show you a really quick tip that you can use if you just have some stash worsted weight and you want to use up what you have. So you can triple this yarn very easily by working from 1 ball. I want to mention that this worsted weight yarn is on the thin side, so it's not as thick as some, but because this is a home decor item, if your bunny comes out a little bigger or a little smaller, that's not a big deal. And to easily modify the size of your bunny, you could use 2 strands instead of 3, and even 1 strand to make a little tiny bunny. But for this tutorial, I'm going to show you it made in the bulky, so we're going to triple this up. So what you're going to want to do is create an S. Okay, so that you have your 3 strands. So an S like this, have my 3 strands of yarn, and I want it fairly big because we will be making a magic ring. So once you have your 3 strands like this, you can just pull them together and see this loop here. All you're going to do to continue to get more yarn is just pull the yarn through like so. So as soon as you get coming to the end, as you work, you're just going to keep pulling the yarn through. So you're having a triple strand to make super bulky yarn, but only working from that one ball of yarn. So this is just a helpful tip if, like I say, you're working from stash yarn and you don't have 3 balls, this is an option to do that. You will need around 250 to 260 yards in total, so keep that in mind if you're working from one ball of yarn. So I just want to chat a little bit about the gauge for this pattern. So if you measure your stitches before you stuff it, you have about 5.5 stitches in 2 inches. If you measure where the rabbit has been stuffed, you get 5 stitches in 2 inches. So that's just an idea for you when you're making it. If you want your bunny the same size as mine, you will have about 5.5 stitches in 2 inches before you stuff it, and then once you stuff it, if you measure it, that's roughly what you should have. Okay, so I'm working from the center of the ball of each ball, and I'm taking my 3 strands and I'm going to make a magic ring. So I wrap the yarn around my index finger 3 times. And also you could use super bulky weight yarn for this as a substitute as well. I'm just gonna take my hook and I'm gonna push it all the way through. And this is a 7mm crochet hook. I'm going to grab my first set of loops, pulling it through, and I'm going to chain 1. Now you'll work 10 single crochet in that ring. Okay, so I have 10. Now to pull your ring tight, I just like to shove all of my work out of the way so I can see those loops. I'm going to take the tail, I'm going to start to pull it. Okay, you're going to see the loops that are pulling in and then some loops that aren't pulling in. So what you need to do is take the loops that started to pull, grab them, and give them a tug. And then you can pull it all tight. I know it's a little trickier when we're working with this many strands of yarn, but just practice at it, or if you prefer, just work from super bulky yarn instead. So now what I'm going to do is work in the back loops, and that's going to give us this nice texture of this rabbit. And I'm going to use my stitch marker because I'm going to work in a continuous round. I'm going through the back loop only, and I'm going to be increasing, so I need to do 2 in each stitch around. So I'm going to place my 2 stitches, and I'm going to grab my stitch marker, marking that first stitch of that round, and I'm going to continue working around 2 single crochet in the back loop. So we'll be increasing from 10 to 20 stitches. And because we've marked that first stitch, When you double check your count, you start here and counting around, make sure you have 20. So I'm going to continue that off camera. Okay, and I counted just to make sure I do have 20. And now you can remove your marker to start the next round. And this will be another increase round. We'll be doing 1 and then 2, 1 and then 2 in each stitch. So continuing in the back loop, I'm going to do 1 in the first, and then I'm going to mark that stitch. I like the closing ones just so it doesn't come out and I don't lose my place. So there's 1, and then I'll do 2 in the back loop of the next. So 2 single crochet through the back loop, 1 in the next, and 2 in the next. And I'll continue that around. We are going from 20 now to 30 stitches. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. I have 30 stitches and I'm ending with 2 in the last stitch. I'm now going to start the next round. So I'm going to remove my marker. And this time we'll do 2 before we do the increase. So 1, 2, and then 2 in the next. 1, 2, and then 2 in the next. So I'm going to single crochet in the back loop of the first stitch and get my marker placed back here. 1 in the next, and then 2 in the next. 1 in the next 2, and 2 in the next. So this increase pattern will bring us up to a total of 40 stitches for this round. So I'm going to continue working that around, and then when I have this round complete, I'll meet you up again. Okay, so I've completed this round. I now have 40 stitches, and this is the last increase. So we won't be doing any more increases. We'll just be working around at the 40 stitches. So now we'll just be doing 1 in every stitch. So I'll do my first, add my marker, and continue working. So now what you need to do is another 8 rounds. So we want to do an additional 8 rounds at 40 stitches. Okay, so I've worked all the way around and I have another 7 rounds to do, so I'm going to complete those off camera. I'm just going to continue marking each round so I don't lose track. You can always tick off as you go if you need to, but it is fairly straightforward to count your rounds as well. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and so I've done 1 here, and you'll need to do a total of 8 more. So if you have your 4 rounds plus your additional 8, that's going to be a total of 12. So if you're counting, you can easily count them to make sure that you have the right number of rounds. Okay, so I finished working my rounds. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in total. And now we're going to do a decrease round. I'm going to remove my marker, and in the back loop we'll work 1, and I'll mark that stitch, 2, and then a decrease. So to do a decrease, we're going to go through, pulling up a loop, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So we'll do 1, 2, and then a decrease. So we'll be decreasing to 30 stitches. I'm going to work that all the way around. Okay, so our next round, we're just going to work 1 in every stitch. So start with 1, mark the stitch, and work all the way around at 30 stitches. So I'm going to complete that, and then I'll meet you up again. Okay, so I've worked all the way around, and we're going to do another decrease. We'll start with 1 in the first stitch, and we'll mark that. And then we'll decrease the next 2. So go through, pulling up a loop, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. We're always working through the back loops only for this pattern. So 1 and then a decrease, 1 and then a decrease. So work that all the way around. You can take your weighted bag at this point and put it in, or you can keep going a little bit longer. Maybe a little bit longer before you want to add the stuffing, because it can get in the way of crocheting with that stuffing in there, but you can add it at this point if you want. So now what we want to do is increase it again. So we have it decreasing for our neck, and then we need to start. So we have it decreasing for the neck, and then we want to increase for the head. So I'll work 1. We decreased to 20 stitches, so now we want to increase back up to 30. So there's 1 and 2 in the next. 1 and 2 in the next. And we'll work that all the way around. And now we'll be just working 1 in every stitch for a total of 5 rounds. Okay, I've done 3 stitches, so I'm going back to the first and keep marking every round and do a total of 5 more. I may add some stuffing now as well, just to make things a little easier later. You can stuff him really as much as you want. I just like to try to make them roughly the same size, because the more stuffing you add, the more it will stretch it. If you want to measure around his body like this, it's about 16.75. I know I do get asked this question sometimes, so just so you know that you're stuffing yours similar to mine, this is how big it is going around. So I measured this guy as well, and they are exactly the same. I won't stuff up the neck. I'll keep working around before I start stuffing that section of the bunny. Okay, so I measured the necks as well, and you want to make sure not to overstuff the neck, because you want to keep it around the 10.75 mark. And you can start stuffing here if you want. And then we're going to start doing some decreases. So I want to decrease down to 20 stitches. So I'll work 1, decrease across the next 2, 1, decrease the next 2, and work that around. And we're going to do another decrease round, and then we'll set this aside to work on the ears. So our final decrease round, we're going to decrease across 2. You can mark this as our first stitch. Decrease the next 2 and continue decreasing around to 10 stitches. Decreasing every 2 stitches. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch to join, and I am going to fasten off with a tail for sewing. I'm not going to close this up yet. And I'm also going to measure my head of this bunny so we can make sure the heads are similar size as well. So that's 12 inches. This one's a little bit smaller. I could probably add a little bit more stuffing to this head. Okay, so I'm gonna set that aside. We're going to grab our pipe cleaners, and I'm gonna make sure that I make my ears the same size. So what I like to do is kind of just bend them. Let me measure here actually. Maybe we'll go with 2 inches. So I'm going to lay this out. I'm going to take them and I'm going to bend them at the 2-inch mark. On this side. Let's do the same thing on this side as well. And so this would be the size of the ear. If you want to change it, I'm just matching up to make sure these ears are about the same. If you wanted your ear a little bit bigger, you could do 1 inch on either side, 1.5 inches. You can play around, but as long as you're making them the same size, that should be measure out the length of the pipe cleaner too, just to make sure that you know what size I'm using. So it looks like it's 12 inches. So now what we're going to do is take our 3 strands of yarn, make a slip knot. We'll put that on our hook. Make sure you have a tail because we'll use that to tie at the end. And we're just going to single crochet around, starting at that bend. Now what I like to do is hold this, get a good hold on it, holding, I find, both sides, and then you can kind of just easily single crochet around it. There's 3, 4, 5, and then just keep bending it. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I got 25 stitches. If you're not happy with how they look, sometimes it might take some practice and you can just pull it back and crochet over it again. You just want your stitches to all look nice and neat. And I'm going to fasten off. Okay, and then you're able to bend your ear how you want it. I'm just going to twist that together. And I'm just going to knot this as well. I like to pinch the top, give it that nice little ear shape. And then I'm going to take the top of So I'll use this as my marker for the back. And what you want to do is we want an ear on this side, an ear on this side, and then it's going to pull them together as we close the top. Before we close it, I'm just going to put the ear on. So what I'm going to do is just go in between. So I don't want to touch these loops because we're going to need them. So shove your pipe cleaner here and here, so sort of around that, the ridge of this second last round. So you want to poke it through so that you can twist to the inside. Push this one through. Can get kind of like twisted up in the stuffing, so you just got to try and push the stuffing out of the way. And then you want a nice tight twist to the inside. So because we're using these pipe cleaners and they could be a little because of the wire and stuff, I wouldn't recommend a child playing with this. This is a home decor item that's meant to sit up on a shelf and look pretty, not meant to be a toy. So once you've twisted that well, I just clip off any remaining bits just so we don't have too much poking. I'm gonna go back again to my tails here, and also we're going to weave them down. We can knot them to the inside as well. Okay, so same thing. We're just going to go down, making sure not to grab that last loop. There's one. And so I'm going to this side of the ridge, or this one, pulling that through, and I'm going to knot this to the inside. Okay, and then you can I am just leaving the tails and just shoving them inside. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other ear. Okay, so I have both ears attached. Now we're going to close up our rabbit. I'm going to take the yarn, put it on my yarn needle, and we're going to weave through the front loops only of every stitch around. You can get a few on your needle at a time. You can do that as well. Remember to check all of your sizing. If you needed to stuff anything else in there before we do this. Okay, so it's just going to close right up. Now you can see the ears are still kind of far apart, but we can pull them a little closer as we do some weaving. So as I weave around, I like to grab a little bit of my ear. Give that a tug. And same thing as we weave over to the other side, you can grab some of that ear. And you can give it a tug, and you can see that's going to pull the ears in. And you just want to play around with your weaving. I sometimes will go over to this side of the ear as well. To make sure that that's pulled in nice. And having a long tail gives you that ability to sort of play around to get the ears positioned how you want. Just want to be careful not to distort the shape too much. You can just use your yarn needle to pull things a little bit back into place if you've pulled too tight. Okay, so once you're happy, you can trim your tail. And I've also cut some twine to wrap around the bunny's neck. So you can use whatever color or natural. And I've cut a 26-inch piece. You could even use ribbon if you prefer, but that does give a little pop of color. Okay, so next we can add a pom-pom for its tail. You could use some white yarn if you prefer, or just the same yarn. You'll have enough to do the pom-pom as well. I'm not sure the exact size of this one, so I'm just gonna measure it across for you so you have an idea of the size that I'm using. Okay, it's about 2.5 inches across. So to make your pom-pom, you're gonna open up the maker like this, and I'm just still working with those 3 strands because this will just make it go faster. And you just wrap the yarn around. The more yarn that you wrap, the fuller the pom-pom is going to be. What you want to do is just make sure you wrap the same amount on each side, as even as possible. Okay, so I like mine nice and full. And then once you get how much you want on there, you can just trim. And then you're gonna close it up and do the same to the other side. Okay, so once you have both sides full, you close it up, and then you can see there's these grooves. We're just going to now cut. Through those grooves. Okay, so I just have 2 pieces for this part. You're going to put the yarn through the grooves. I'm going to go through once and then one more time. Okay, so when you pull this, we'll keep it so that it doesn't come loose, because you want to pull that really tight. Knot, and then you can also knot on this side as well. Then you can open it up. I always like to give it a good little shake, and then you can see we have some straggly bits here and there. You can just trim your pom-pom into shape at this point. Overall, it's going to have a pretty good shape from the maker. Okay, so then we want to tie the pom-pom on. Now I always want to make sure that I have enough yarn for the pom-pom, so I leave it to the end. But if you were to do it earlier on, you could knot it to the inside before we close it all up, but it is pretty easy to add a pom-pom without doing that. So I'm just going to weave it in. You're not even going to see the knot. Okay, and then I'm just going to take the tail and like weave it into the bunny Okay, and that's complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. You'll find all the links you need in the description box below. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.